Hey athletes, let's talk about your inner thighs. So, I love taking care of my inner thighs because this helps me get into a better squat position. It helps take some pressure off of my lower back, okay? So if your lower back's burning, maybe your inner thighs are tight. They especially get tight if you sit a lot, so this is something that anybody who has a desk job or went for a long drive, this is something you should be working on. We've got 3 different stretches, and again, this helps us get into better positions, whether it's doing it for a warm-up right before we do squats or something like that. And remember, we don't want to hold these very long. We hold it for maybe 5 to 10 seconds and we switch back and forth. We're just trying to open some things up, and not that we're trying to improve our range of motion, okay? So, a lot of people know this first stretch. This first stretch, let me lower you down some more. This first stretch, everybody knows. They put their feet together, they try to hump forward, and they try to get a stretch. Now, we want your inner thighs opening up, okay? This isn't specifically a lower back stretch. You might feel some relief in your lower back, but again, we want those inner thighs to be affected. So, get up against a wall, okay? So, I'll situate my lower back up against the wall. This will allow me to sit up a little bit better, and I can take one of my hands and push on a leg while I lean on the other side. And I can sit here forever, okay? What I'm trying to make sure happens is my feet are open up so that my hips can open up better. And again, I want my inner thighs to stretch. Now, just like always with our stretches, it takes 10 or 15 seconds for our body to just start to relax, because at first, when you stretch a muscle, it gets freaked out, okay? It thinks it's taking a load or something like that's happening. So after a while, it'll finally let go, and then we can stretch it. So I'm leaning, I'm pushing. Then again, I can switch to the other side. I'll put a little pressure, and then I'm going to slide my hand up my leg and push down. Now, a way to advance this is our inner thighs release as the opposite muscles engage. The opposite muscles in this case happen to be your glutes, right? So you can squeeze your butt cheeks, and you can see that my knees will drop when I do that because my hips are coming through. Then from here I can push, okay? That's the first one, our butterfly stretch. Now, another great inner thigh stretch is up against the wall. So let me adjust this so you can see what I'm about to do. We call it the straddle stretch. So just like our butt stretch, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. We start with our hip up against the wall, and I'm going to just lay on the wall and open my legs up, okay? From here, I can pull on my legs or anything that I need to be doing. But just like we talked about with our glute stretches, we want to make sure that our lower back is being pushed down towards the ground so that our feet can open up. And again, if you're not feeling your inner thighs, you need to move around and figure out what you're doing. This is a great one, real quick, right before you do a squat session, just to make sure those hips are open. Now, the last exercise is one of my favorites from when I used to teach yoga. It's called frog, okay? So this is a great one for feeling where neutral spine is, feeling how low your hips can actually go in a squat, right? Because we've talked about this in the past. There's how far you can squat, and then there's how far you can sit, right? Sitting isn't squatting necessarily, okay? So this allows us to kind of play with how we squat. So I'm going to back this camera up a second. I'm going to lower you down. All right, so frog. What I'm going to do, and I'll show you 2 different angles. I'll show you my butt in a second. I'm going to open up my hips, okay? I'm going to angle this a little bit better. I'm going to open up my hips, and I'm going to drop onto my forearms. Now, we're trying to avoid any rolling of our backs or arching, right? We don't want that. We want neutral, somewhere in between. I'm flexing my foot, as you can see, right? I'm not pointing. I'm flexing my feet. And then I'm really trying to open up my hips the best that I can. This is a great stretch to do after you've done the other 2 that I've shown you. So again, we find our neutral spine, and then from here we just lightly push back. Again, really trying to focus on keeping my spine neutral. You don't want to feel like your hips are going to explode. We just need them to open up a little bit. This is a great one to improve your ability to squat. This is an awesome range of motion stretch. But again, you can overdo it. We don't want to arch, we don't want to tuck, we want to be somewhere neutral. So, let me get a better angle. Time to look at my butt. So I'll give you kind of a side shot. But again, nice neutral spine. And I'll sit back into it. So again, it should look very similarly to a squat, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to open up our hips so that we can squat better. I hope these inner thigh stretches will help. It helps alleviate some of that lower back pain. And again, make sure you know why you're doing it so that you know how long you need to be holding it.